This place has a way of hugging you and cradling you in a way that you don't expect. And I want to use the word cradle. I think it like has a way of like sucking your ambition in some way and just like making you so complacent and happy.
Scandinavia is the greatest conservative psyop that no one talks about. Phil, you keep pushing this conspiracy theory. Tell me more about this.
All right. Well, there are certain things that I think now living here for 8 years that like people do not understand about this region of the world. This is the most conservative place I think I've ever lived. And I lived in the South. I've lived in North Carolina. But
No
it
way.
like manifests in interesting ways. And when I say conservative, I mean like small c conservative.
What do you
You
what
you
does that mean?
you experience this too, right? So not necessarily like, the modern political conservative movement, but more
Yeah.
of like the Burkean small c reverence for tradition is really what I mean here. Like the Swedish celebration of the most random ass holidays and routine is unparalleled. St. Lucia Day,
Hmm.
Fat Tuesday, going to get candy every single week, Donald Duck TV. Like, there's all of these traditions that help like bind these people together.
Yeah, but it is a monarchy.
I mean, sure, yeah. So that would reinforce the point. I don't think the monarchy is too active here. I don't think they're like, vetoing bills.
It's one of the symbols of conservatism.
True, true. True, but like most Swedish things are fairly modest though. That's one of the things I would push back on. Like when you look at almost all of the summer homes, they're all the same color red, which by the way, someone actually did a PhD thesis on like why they all look the same. But it's that no tall poppy, which is a Chinese proverb. Um, you know, law of equality that these people seem to follow that I think actually enhances modesty. There's a lot of modesty here
Mm.
in
Well,
dress
yeah.
too. Again,
Yes.
conservative.
Conservative, it's humility. Finns also love to put the word humility.
Mm,
That's the most cherished value. And
mm.
you see humility in an interesting way in Finland. It's very much like my wife describes Finns as aspirational Germans. And so, and she's Finnish. And so
Mm.
the way it comes, like, for example, in Germany or in Finland, if you'd buy an expensive car, first of all, you would not buy a Porsche. Like, that would be like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Flashiness is not the thing. You would buy a car that is more expensive than a Porsche, but it is a station wagon BMW or something like that. Like with the crazy horsepowers. It's a 4x4. It's like it's so much utility. Like, there has to be utility component to it. And then what you do is you cover up that it is a super BMW or Audi or whatever. So you take away the tax. Like when you're buying your
Mm,
car, there's an option like, can I get it without it saying that this is a supercar? Let's hide it from everybody and let just
mm.
me drive my supercar and not be flashy. So humility extends to every aspect. That was just a car example, but I think, people catch the drift how it works.
Yeah, I know, and
Yeah.
it extends to dress too, right? You've seen
Hmm.
those Instagram memes of people living in a particular region and checking back in like every so often. Like you definitely have a Swedish dress evolution here. Like I've watched my girlfriend go through it. Like all of her clothes are starting to become darker and more monotone.
Hmm.
The width of the jeans is starting to expand. By the way, we're revisiting 90s American
Yeah.
fashion right
That's,
now in
yeah.
in Sweden.
Yeah.
Midriffs are back. There's things you thought you would never see that are back
Yeah.
in, baby.
So you're moving out of Sweden.
Yeah, I would say it's pretty confirmed at this point. Look, there's a
Pretty
couple. There's
confirmed. What is a
pretty
pretty
confirmed.
confirmed?
Look at. There's always a lot of pieces, especially when you get a business. When you've lived here for so long, there's a lot of legal obligations that you try to figure out as well. Because I'm American too, and I think that makes the tax situation always more complicated. But you're coming with me. We're holding hands, right? Through this. We're
Yeah,
jumping
so
together.
we're jumping together. So September is the date that both of us are leaving Scandinavia, the greatest conservative psyop that no one talks about. And both of us are migrating south. How far south are we going?
The Mediterranean,
The
right?
Mediterranean, correct. And the funny thing enough, so what happened was, like, without knowing what each of us was doing, actually, I kind of had a whiff of what you're going to do. So you're moving to Cyprus, which is
Hmm.
the place that everybody thought I would be moving.
Mm.
And I'm moving not that far away, Athens, just like it is right now between Helsinki and Stockholm. So tell me about, like, how did you end up an American living in Sweden, getting Swedish citizenship, drinking from the Kool-Aid of the
Oof.
conservative Psyop, and then going to the Puerto Rico of Europe?
Is that what it's called?
You tell me. It's a tax haven with where nobody would live otherwise, but the taxes are really low, and it's the infrastructure is not quite there. It sounds like Puerto Rico to me. The
It's
weather is
evolving.
great, gets a
It's
little bit hot.
evolving.
Yeah, just like Puerto Rico, it's evolving. It's the you would meet the Jake Pauls of Europe in in Puerto Rico.
Oh,
Game devs. We know that great gameplay is what players love, but integrating metagame features like challenges, progression, rewards is crucial for retention and monetization. However, coding them is a tedious and time-consuming process. That's why top studios have turned to Hero. Hero provides a complete suite of battle-tested metagame features that are quick to implement, letting you spend more time on the core gameplay experience. Ready to ship fully featured, engaging games? Check out Hero today by clicking the link below.
man, I was when you go through this process, you start to like look back at dates for certain things, for deregistration or whatever it may be. And it was like shocking that I've lived in this continent for like basically a fourth of my life. I've lived in the old continent, Europe, which is crazy to me. Absolutely crazy. Like I've gotten Swedish citizenship. I have two Swedish pets. I started a Swedish business. Um, yeah, it's weird, right? I didn't go on this journey on purpose. But I would say this, like, this is why I think games is like the greatest thing in the world. And if you're listening to this, you have this opportunity. If you work in games, it can take you anywhere, right?
Yeah.
It can take you absolutely anywhere because games are made everywhere. It's like those very curious industries. We usually call them like these agglomeration effects in economics, where like industries tend to cluster because there are knowledge spillovers, like Silicon Valley. But games have like this multiple equilibria where, like, hey, there's a London hub, there's a Los Angeles hub, there's a Finnish hub, there's a Swedish hub, and that enables you as a highly skilled laborer to move and have companies pay you to come to their place and take care of all the messy details. And I think if you get that opportunity, particularly as an American, like, you don't want to like have regrets. You don't want to look the path not taken. I think most Americans, like, especially if they studied abroad in college, are like, oh man, what would it be like to live in Europe? Well, I imagine it. If you work in games, you can make it happen.
Yeah.
Just be willing to accept 2x the tax rate and half the salary, and you can live the European dream.
Well, that's why not many Americans move around, is because of the student debt and the salaries here being so much lower and the tax so much higher. But I think the way you view opportunities is exactly the way I do it. Is like, what would happen if I wouldn't take this opportunity, rather than like, oh, how hard it is. I need to move. I need to figure out this. I need to figure, like, rather just think about it. Like 10 years later, would you regret that you didn't take this path? But tell me a little bit more about Cyprus. Did you visit Cyprus and were like,
I
God
did.
damn it, I don't want to leave?
I did. I did. I
Really?
mean, I mean, you have to fit it in like a broader
Mhm.
context. I mean, I'm ready for kind of the next stage of life.
Ah,
Hopefully Eric Kress is somewhere clapping. And so,
so
like,
yeah,
okay,
the
what
contractor wife.
yeah, yeah. So it's
Are we making her a full time employee?
yeah, and I don't think it's gonna be the old continent for us.
Hmm.
We can talk about this more later, but
Interesting.
I've had an amazing time here. I have so much respect and thanks for the Swedish people. I'm ready to take up arms against Putin. You know, I'm ready to be at the border to defend my citizenship. But
You haven't gone through the Swedish military forces, just to be clear. You're not
yeah,
part
that's
of the
true. That's
Swedish
true.
defense forces, so you're the
That's right.
last
We'll
one to be
we'll
called.
we'll, we'll see if conscription starts again. That will be interesting.
Well, then you wave your U.S. passport and be like, I need to go back home. They need me.
We'll see. We'll see. I put a lot of Swedish kids through college. So yeah, I think you're trying to figure out the next stage of life. I wanted one last hurrah. We got this citizenship. I want to have a little bit of fun.
Hmm.
And I think Cyprus provides a lot of opportunities to do that. You don't have to be in Cyprus as long as you might be another place too. So if you want to use it a home base to travel around, which is something we're interested in doing before moving back to North America, that's what we wanted to do. And so we said, let's do it. And
Yeah.
that's what we're in the process of kind of getting done.
So it is a calculated choice by the game economist
There were
to choose
spreadsheets. I
Cyprus
can
as HQ,
confirm.
and not you visiting the beautiful island in the
I did
Mediterranean.
visit. I did visit.
Yeah.
I don't roll the dice like this without visiting. It's a very
Hmm.
cheap flight. Like I think you definitely need to visit and see if this is a place you want to be for sure.
Hmm.
And there's a lot of
Ta-
games there. I think like again we were just talking about this. There's a shit ton of games there. Mobile games, HD starting to trickle in. It's a very interesting place. It's starting to become a ethnically diverse place in a way that I don't think you'd expect. The
is it?
Israelis are forming their own
Oh yeah,
segment. The
yeah,
Russians have
yes.
their own segment. The Ukrainians, of course, the Cypriot people, some immigrants from the Middle East. Now different people moving for lifestyle reasons, tax reasons, all the things you mentioned. It's like kind of an interesting pie now.
Yeah, as a gaming cluster, it's one of the most impressive ones, as you said. All the Belarusian studios, all the Russian studios, all the Ukrainian studios, and all the Israelis. They haven't set up their studios because they per se don't need to relocate, but they are, flying every day on the island and then doing all kinds of events. So it's one of the most impressive hubs where you actually feel the momentum of growth. Where you look around like I didn't know about your company. Your company's 100 people. You're growing double digits year over year. It's really impressive place to visit, and yeah, nice weather. But talking back on Sweden, when you were in Sweden for 8 years, did it really truly feel like a home, like US did, or was it sort of a different category entirely?
This place has a way of hugging you and cradling you in a way that you don't expect. And I want to use the word cradle. I think it like has a way of like sucking your ambition in some way and just like making you so complacent and happy. Like things, the quality of life is so high. It feels like there are very few bumps. Like when you think about like all your major error points, like in America, like all the hard edges, my car breaks down. That's a huge unexpected bill. You think about health. Sometimes we talk about it. Don't be wrong.
Yeah.
There are many things we could talk about the Swedish health system that Americans don't understand, and how prevalent, by the way, private health insurance is here as
Huge.
well. But by and large, things run well, right? Like I'm able to take a high speed train to the airport. The T-Bana functions. Taxes are easy. It really is a text message. It really is a text message every year to fill out your taxes. Like a lot of
Hmm.
things here just feel like buttery smooth. Um, yeah, so it makes you feel comfortable. It makes you feel really comfortable, and I would say almost like get complacent. So did it feel like home? I don't think it did. I don't think it did in some ways. I think like when you live in a place, you see the contrast from where you are to everything around you. It highlights your differences, and so like a lot of people sometimes ask like, "Oh my God, has it made you more European?" And there are certainly things like I've noticed living here that I think are great things I'd love to take back home that are interesting lessons, whether it be policy, culturally, like whatever it may be. But this has made me more American than anything else in my life has been like living here. So that's why I felt like North America is home.
Hmm. Policy culture. What are the concrete elements uh, that you're carrying as a part with you from Sweden as you move forward in the next phases until you get back to the North America?
Oh God, oh God. I would look. I'm all fair game to talk about policy. I would say that's different from politics. I would say like if there's one thing I think living here has made me understand about the welfare state that I don't think most people understand is that it's mostly taxed and financed by the middle class because they need an extremely large tax base because they're enormous bills, and the main beneficiaries of the welfare state are also the middle class. Like a lot of these public services, free universities, like a lot of these are middle class subsidies. And again, the taxes hit the hardest on the middle class. I just want people to understand there's no tax free income bracket here. You start at 25%. And I think, I forget the exact break-even point, but I think it's after like $40,000, then the other 25% kicks in and you're at a 50% marginal tax rate. There's a 30% tax on your labor that your employer pays that you don't see. In the United States, we call that FICA. I think it's around 12.5%. Here it's 30%.
Yeah, it's huge.
And so if you're an entrepreneur and you pay yourself money, you first have to pay the state 30%. Sales tax is 25%. That's a regressive tax. It's a higher share of burden on people with a lower income too. Like, I think people just need to understand, like, there are trade-offs, and those trade-offs can be great, but we just need to recognize there are trade-offs here.
Yeah.
And I think that sometimes is misunderstood what the trade-offs are.
You actually see those payments only when you become an entrepreneur and when you make when you start making your euros. Like even myself, like even when driving a startup and having P&L responsibilities, and at a startup you actually see the bulk money and then where it goes, and having employees like 30 and so forth. You don't quite see the costs in the same way as when you're really making your every euro and seeing how hard it's being taxed left and right. And when that happens, it's not that you're against taxes, but now you start thinking about, like, wait a minute, what am I spending on? And that's a different type of calculus. But I understand that Sweden is doing mighty well with their economy, and like every time you visit Stockholm,
so lowest corporate income tax rate, one of the lowest corporate income tax rates in the world. It's around 20%. It's actually lower than the United States for a very long time as well.
Ireland is 12, right?
Yes, but like, this is a legit place, so.
Yeah, that's true. But are there anything like culturally Swedish that you will take with you?
You mean like back home?
Yeah, like, are you gonna have fika? Like, is that a thing? Are you gonna eat pea soup on Thursdays? Like, what are we like?
Yeah, I think that's interesting. I mean, like, some of the food stuff I'll totally take back. I mean, who doesn't love a good kanelbulle? And I love all their little celebrations around their cultural food items. I think those are wonderful. Like, will I watch Donald Duck on Christmas? We'll see.
Kalle
I mean, I'm definitely cheering for Sweden in Eurovision. There's no doubt about it. But I would say, like, on a deeper cultural level, I think what I take away from Sweden is being able to enjoy family actually a little bit more. Is something that, like, especially when I hang out with my Swedish friends, they have a bond. They have a bond that, like, holds them together. Like, Americans move around a lot, and Swedes, by the way, are one of the most prevalent groups in Europe to also travel abroad. They're most likely to have a passport. They really get out of the nest, but they always come back. And I think that gives them a bond that I think is really interesting. And so I think there's something about, again, being strongly rooted here that I take away, that I think that the Swedes have. And again, I think that's a very conservative concept.
Yeah. So there's a lot of things you're gaining by moving to Cyprus in terms of financial gains, of course, getting away from the tax system. Also, you gain mobility in a different way because, as I understand, being a tax resident of Cyprus only requires you to be there 60 days and not even consecutively. What a burden. Puerto Rico just wishes it would have that. So it creates a lot of mobility where you will be probably around Europe and Asia and North America. Are you losing something by making this move?
Of course. Like I said, trade-offs. This isn't a permanent solution for us, but I look at this as like the last hurrah before going back to North America. Like, there's still places that I think, when you live somewhere, it's fundamentally different than visiting it. Right? There's a fundamentally different perspective you take, even if it's for a brief period of time. And I just keep looking east. I got a twinkle in my eye when I went to Singapore earlier this year, man.
Oh, like, you like Singapore?
Dude, if it wasn't, obviously when you move, here's the thing expats will also tell you that people considering moving need to understand. If you have a significant other, it's the number one failure point of relationships and moves not working out. That is one thing you need to understand.
100%.
150%. Everyone will tell you that. And so you guys need to be aligned on that. And we do have different jobs, my partner and I. And that influences this. But if it was up to me, I would be in Taiwan in the next 24 hours.
Taiwan?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think it's a fascinating place. Chiang Kai-shek used to have a residence in New Hampshire in Winniwasaki, which is really
visit
weird.
while you can, right?
Yeah, that's. I was there earlier this year. I like underdogs. What can I say?
No, I'm just kidding. So talking a little bit more about your career before we steer away too much into joking about.
Let's get into geopolitics.
Geopolitics, yeah, exactly. We can only talk about the tax rates of the countries that we live in. So you've made a business out of diagnosing other people's products. When was the last time you looked at your own career as a product, and what would game economist audits say about that?
Interesting. I like this question. I have actually at least set aside time to evaluate my own business as though I would be a product manager. Like, I think if you're thinking about doing consulting, you realize how much games have given you in terms of your ability to evaluate, understand, and run a business. It is mind blowing, right? Because when you do games, you touch so many different aspects, particularly in live service, right? How to run a P&L, how to think about costs, how to allocate resources. And so like I have a Google sheet where I keep all my numbers, I have all my forecasts, I have my run rate for the year. I have everything color coded about whether or not I'm below or above my target. Like now I do everything on run rate. So I'm basically looking at what my monthly revenue is and then how that adds to my average and then what that average would mean in terms of my end of year number. And if it's above my target, it gets a nice little green box. I get a little check. And if it doesn't, I get a red box and I'm mad. And then that files into a 401k, which is invested in the S&P 500, which grows at a nice 3% per year. And then you can calculate that out. It's like, all the financial engineering. But I think like a founder, like, what do you want? What do you want for that part of your life? Like, I think a lot of people just like chase cash. I don't get it, man. Like, I'm not like cash is a medium of exchange. Like, you got to have a good at the end.
Yeah.
You got a good. And ever since like you look at that Mila Kunis, Ashton Kutcher house, you've seen this. It's beautiful.
No.
It's beautiful. They have a beautiful like industrial barn. It's like, oh man, do I want an industrial barn? Okay, what would it take to get that? How could you optimize against that? Right? Could I buy the architectural drawings from the people? Okay, what would that cost? Like, I think it works more sense to work backwards from just somewhere to vision, even if you don't take it seriously, and helping organize your financial life around that. Like, I think just pursuing a number is like, I just don't like games like that. Leaderboards don't do it for me, man. Leaderboards don't do it.
Web stores. You've seen what good looks like, but have you seen great? AppCharge is the direct-to-consumer platform backed by the likes of Supercell and built by monetization pros from Moon Active, Playtika, Huge Games, and others. People who know the difference. AppCharge powers over $500 million in transaction a year for top studios, optimizing every detail. Deeply personalized web store offers custom-made design, industry-leading monetization features, in-game payments, SDK, and more. 70% of top grossing games already have a web store, but the ones scaling fastest, they're doing it with AppCharge. Learn more at appcharge.com. So you put in a target of a certain thing, and then you tie that target to a physical element, like for example, an industrial barn. What a Swedish dream. You've been too long there. So you basically put in a number of that, and then like not only envisioning the number, but envisioning what that would get you, even though you might never get an industrial barn and will change your opinion on having an industrial barn. And then you basically break down from that of like what would need your business to be like. But you said you're in a phase where you don't have kids. You have a lot of freedom. You have a lot of mobility, and you're not chasing cash. Like, what are you chasing then? Like, what's that?
Well, I mean, cash is a medium of exchange.
Okay, but you're not chasing you're not chasing the number. You're chasing what it could transfer to.
Exactly.
Got it. So meaning that if you'd be chasing cash, then that means more is better. But in this case, you wouldn't do more just for the sake of more, right?
Correct. Like, is there some degree of satiation? I think like you can be satiated. Like, once you're past a certain amount of money, does the additional dollar make you any bit happier? Yada 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 yada. Like, I totally would confer with that. I think just sometimes when I see like entrepreneurs, they always like, you guys are always like they're always like money. It's like illiquid money is like everywhere.
Yes.
And my argument is like, the point is to consume. And I would argue that like when you consume something, especially durable, it generates a stream of dividends. Like a house, you're constantly consuming a house every time you're in it. So it's an extremely valuable good. And you want to consume that as quick as possible because you want to maximize that stream going forward. And so I just think entrepreneurs spend too much time with like frozen assets. I think you want to work backwards from something really tangible and see like, oh, hey, how can I do that? Because like again, you want to consume.
Mm.
Like that is the point.
Yeah, yeah, but it's also, I've noticed it's not as easy to consume mentally because you earn everything. It's like, like kids can consume a lot if it's the weekly allowance, but suddenly if they
Yeah.
have to earn that money, then they're not
Mm.
buying the first toy that they're seeing. Now
Oh,
they're
of
saving.
course. They're pocketing it, right? Just
Yes.
give your kid 10 like they're asking for every toy in the store, just give them $10 instead and say like you can pick any one. I guarantee you they'll like pocket it and walk out.
Well,
Or at least I did.
yeah, yeah, not quite. So, I'm curious. So you worked at Scopely, you worked for Amazon, you worked for Dice, which we hear about every single episode. Uh, what's the retention mechanic that keeps you in consulting instead of going back in house?
So I think like someone asked me what I want in my career once because like you start to get to certain points and they're diverging paths and sometimes I think there's like path dependency. So like people management I think puts you in a particular path. IC work puts you in a particular path. And I was actually looking at our good friend Eric Seifert,
Hmm.
and I think that's a very interesting man who's like really carved his own path, his own vehicle. You know, he's kind of crafted his own boat, and I think that's really interesting. And I think a lot of people want to be like King Arthur or Lancelot, and I think it's much more fun to be Merlin. Like Merlin is the wizard, and dude, he's fucking going on. He gets his own TV show on BBC for 4 seasons. Like he's having a great time. He's got magic, right? And he just shows up to the board meetings, like says some cool shit, does some magic, and pieces out. Like he seems like he's living the best life, right? And I think you want to be Merlin, and so I
Hmm.
think like consulting gives you that opportunity to kind of like row your own boat. And I think more importantly, the other thing it does, at least for me, is like like if you want to become the avatar, like you need to master all the elements, right? And so like how are you going to master web3 and PC console if you aren't working in both PC console and mobile? Like these are very different paradigms, and I think like mastering one of them makes you better in the other. Like the insights I get from mobile games do amazing things on PC console, and it works vice versa. And not
Hmm.
only that, like you also get to see like what the emerging horse is going to be. Like I thought Web3 was going to be like the other element you need to master to become the economic avatar, and I think it's actually Roblox these days.
Yeah.
But I think like the ability to have your hand in each of these pots is a ton of fun, and it just keeps me alive, right? Like what I have right now for my client list, I'll go from one meeting talking about trying to build like a most intricate, positive, cosmetic economy for this PC console game, this MOBA, this Western MOBA that I'm sure
Wow.
Eric would be disgusted by, but they're growing though, which is interesting. They're doing a really great job. And then the next one, it's like, hey, let's talk about the results from Multi-Arm Bandit that we ran on this match 3 game. And I don't think I could do that if I worked for any single firm.
So you like learning a lot and being in very many different projects at the same time rather than grinding on a single project for 6 years.
Oh, I don't be wrong. I will come around to that. Like, I will want that at some point in my life. I wouldn't mind taking a fractional work. I wonder where I could learn more about that.
I wonder. I
uh,
wonder.
so, because like it's never truly your baby, right? You're always in someone else's house, and you want to embrace and respect what they've contributed to it too. So like that will come around. I think there's a lot of scars in games, right? I think like you've mentioned, you got to be very picky because you can devote yourself to something that could go on for like 5 or 6 years and get canceled. And I don't think I want to do that again. you know,
Yeah.
like if I'm doing something, I want to see some light.
Yeah. That's something that a lot of people haven't thought about, and I for sure I didn't think about it, is that you have to be extremely picky with the projects that you
Mm,
choose because you don't want to be the winning player on a losing team. You want to be, you don't even have to be a winning player on a winning team. You just have to be on a winning team. And that really is a key thing to build your career around.
I mean, think about how many shots you get. Like, particularly if you're in PC console, you know,
Five,
yeah, you start at 21. Maybe you have like another 30, 40 years of working.
not even
Um,
21. In
yeah.
in in Sweden, they graduate at 25 because they're cuddled.
Oh boy. I'm gonna get canceled. They're gonna kick me out of the country.
Well, T minus 1 month. But yeah, go on.
No, I don't have much more to add there. I think yeah, I'd stand by that.
Yeah, so about 5 projects you have holistically in your career, and
Hmm.
5 shots, and you have to find the one that wins. Um, how do you handle context shifting between these clients? As you're saying, one hour you're talking about multi-arm bandits for a match 3 game, and next thing you're talking about Web3 economies.
Not well. That was probably the biggest pain point in like growing the consulting business was managing clients, especially across different domains, different project sizes. When do you take on a client if it's not worth it? Like I wasn't really thinking about the fixed costs necessarily of taking on a client. It's much better to have one client focus on one problem then move on to the next. Obviously, that's not always realistic. So I'd say not well at first. I think what's really helped me is doing a little bit of scaling. I hired an executive assistant who's been amazing for me.
Hmm.
And what I also do is I listen to notes. I do have the note taker, but I don't just do AI summarize notes. Like I listen to the notes myself. And I've started to think about this as like it's like watching film, in the NFL. I know you're watching quarterback. You know how
Oof.
much
Now
film
I'm
they
watching
watch, right?
SEC
Ah,
on
okay.
Netflix.
The college
I
football?
do not care. I do
Jesus,
not
man.
care. I'm
What
I'm
about
balls
Field of
deep in this.
Can we hook you on like any sports drama? Any American sports
Yes,
drama?
yes. I like sports drama. I don't care about football at all. I watched the fucking rugby thing before that. I have no idea about rugby. I pinged John Wright. He was like, "Let's go watch some match." So I'm like, "I'm not that interested. I just like the drama."
Jesus.
Yes, sucker
Where
for
were we?
drama. Yeah. So sorry for about how I get hooked on on sports drama, but the context switching
Hmm.
and you hiring the
Yes,
executive
yes.
assistant.
So, speaking of which, so she's been amazing. She's here in Sweden. That she's helped me. And me listening to the notes, watching film, like that's been really interesting because what people said when you listen back to it is different than what people remember. And so going through that process and then posting the notes, I found to be fruitful, and they're also useful to like look back on where we were last time we chatted. So like for instance, if a client comes back after like 6 months, like I can just look back at those notes and they're detailed enough. I wrote them, I understand them, and that's been really helpful to help keep my head
Mm.
straight too.
I also learned, I don't know if this is prioritization, but I learned from you the how decisive you are in many of these companies. Like when I embarked on consulting route like a couple of years ago, I was kind of chasing a client, like it's going somewhere, like and like you end up in these longer negotiations, and you told me straight up, this is going nowhere. And I was like, no, 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 I can turn this around. And you're absolutely right. And then since then, it's like very clear cut. And then I've kind of put that forward to other people as well. It's the same learning. You get it through reps where you can feel if this is going somewhere, if somebody is just busting your balls, as you would say.
Well, here's the thing I would say is like, so we were talking about like PMing your own business, and one of the things I've started to do in the last 6 months is I have all of the intro meetings I have with clients, and then basically I track it through a funnel. And so like you can see what the drop off is from like intro to like responded to offer to accepted offer. And like, you got to kiss a lot of frogs, right?
Yeah.
And so like if someone doesn't it's just like free to play. If someone doesn't convert in the next 48 hours, I would say the likelihood of conversion drops dramatically.
Yeah.
That would be
Yeah.
that would be my observation from consulting.
The problem is oftentimes people believe in themselves, like I can turn this around, I can make them sign and so
Oh, I
forth,
have
and
no
then
illusions.
they end up and yeah, but that only comes through reps and through
Mm,
comes from working. And what we're referring to, there's like in this line of work, there people always contact you and ask you about something. They want to get a little bit of your information and what you would do here. And then sometimes, we're talking about people who might be in leadership teams and known publishers, and you would go and you meet them, and might meet the CEO, you talk this, and they talk about how you could help them, and it never converts to an actual contract. And so you may end up spending a lot of time just dating. And so what you've done really well is like, boom, we had our first coffee. We ain't dating forward. Like this is my job. I'm not here to entertain you and muse you. Like this is actually what I do. So either you sign the
I,
contract or not.
Dude, you gotta pop the question at some point, man.
Yeah.
You gotta have an ultimatum, right? And that's the
Yeah.
first thing to do is put a contract in front of them and be like, hey, let's talk about this. What would you need to see? That does this describe your problem? I mean, that's the first thing I try to do in that email
Hmm.
is like, hey, we had our initial meeting. Here's the problem as I understood it.
Yes.
Is this correct? Here's what I propose. Does this make sense to you? Like you gotta move the business piece forward.
Yeah.
Like it's a consultant. This is what I don't think people understand is like your business of one. Your time is money. It is very literal time is money. Very, very little time is money. And that changes every part of your life because everything becomes an optimization. Could I respond to this? Do I need to respond to this? Because more billable hours makes you better off.
Yeah. 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 It's and sometimes people who are not in consulting or maybe quite don't understand that this is what you
I
do.
didn't. I
Yeah.
didn't. You don't understand how much time you're farting around when you're in a corporation. You don't
Yeah,
understand
that's
how
true.
useless you are and how little shit you do until you
Yeah.
do this. You're like,
Yes.
oh fuck! Like it's the Peter Thiel advice, right? Like, okay, imagine your next 5-year plan. Okay, do that in 6 months. Like that.
Yeah.
And if you don't, like, you fail. Like, this is what people don't understand. If you don't do this shit, you don't eat, right? Like, there was a month where I was so exhausted and I got sick too, and I earned no income from that month. And I looked at a little spreadsheet. And I was like, shit, like that's real. That's real, right? Like that's less actual tangible income that you have, and you got to start to think about those things and like
And so
how you're gonna do well at them.
Attention app and game developers, are you ready to unlock the secrets behind the world's top performing apps and games? With Sensor Tower, you get the ultimate competitive edge, whether it's breaking into new markets, fine-tuning your UA strategies, or boosting monetization. Dive into data like never before, track global trends across app stores, analyze market-leading in-app purchase and in-app ad strategies, and benchmark your performance with real-time insight. The best part, Sensor Tower doesn't just deliver data, it helps you turn it into action. With intuitive tools and expert analysis, it's everything you need to make smarter, faster decisions. Thousands of app and game studios, from indie creators to global giants, trust Sensor Tower to help them win. So why not you? Start your free trial today at sensortower.com. That is sensortower.com.
Well, okay, so let's talk about the mental side. Eat what you kill. That sounds fun, very masculine way of putting things, but emotionally it's pretty tough. Like you said, you had a month where you didn't earn anything, you worked like
Yeah,
a dog.
yeah.
You must feel like quite of a loser at that time.
They're just highs and lows, man. I don't know. Watch like a Showtime show about consulting or something. Like, what is it, Power?
Or
you
or
know,
sports
or was it
documentary.
Billions or something? I don't know. Like, look at their highs and lows. Like, celebrate the wins, and I would say don't focus too long on the losses because this is consulting. There's going to be a new one that's going to walk through the door, and you're going to have a great opportunity. And try to do the best with them because things also change in this business. People that have walked away sometimes will come back later, and you have the opportunity to work with them, and it's awesome. Like right now, I would say in terms of my client list, it's the happiest I've ever been,
Hmm,
for sure. I'm most fulfilled I've ever been.
hmm. Well,
You can be more choosy too as you get more into
well,
this.
that also comes through with time, or the ability to kind of understand that this is just a month and
Mm,
things will change in a month. So, is there any way to kind of expedite that feeling? Because I remember clearly that first month where I didn't have any like much going on, and your revenues essentially drop month over month. It could
it's
be like an 80%
terrifying.
drop, 80% drop, and you're like, and everything is silent. And then it goes from like barely have time to eat, things are silent, and then you have to believe that as you're rowing this ocean and there's no islands, there's no birds, but soon things are going to be great again, which
Yeah.
is mental.
No, I think that's fair. Mate had mentioned this, and it is the most important aspect I think of doing this. That for someone who's thinking about doing consulting, and Mate had mentioned this, and there was someone on the Deconstructor Fund Slack who I'd wrote this to, and I bolded it like 18 different times in my notes to him, and that isn't an exaggeration. I literally did it because I wanted to beat him over the head with it. What is your way to achieve deal flow? Most important thing of getting consulting right: regular deal flow. right? Acquisition, it's a funnel. You know, where's Jen? She's smiling somewhere too. It is a funnel, right? And you need to maximize that funnel,
So like a
right?
media
And so
channel, like a
it,
podcast.
like putting pre-roll on a podcast, you know, like that is brilliant. These are the things that are really important. Regular LinkedIn posts, whatever it may be, what are things that are getting you regular visibility and are effective at bringing people in? Because what makes you popular is not always what brings in clients. That's the other thing I think people understand. Just going out there and writing a think piece, that's mostly me just wasting my time. That does not bring in clients. Solving a
That's so
problem does.
true. That's so true. I'm not naming a person in consulting who recently, maybe a good month ago, like this year, switched to consulting, or last year, I don't remember.
Mm.
And they were really popular on LinkedIn, and they were really writing these sort of think pieces and feel good stories, and they were showing how many likes they get, and they're really chasing the subscriber number. And I remember when they switched to consulting from that feel good and continued writing the feel good and was really positive about how many cases they could get, silence for a long time, because they were writing good stuff, but it wasn't just converting to business because they weren't talking about the business side.
Yep, I couldn't agree more. That's my observation as well.
So what type of content converts into business? Like
Solving a problem.
if pictures of my family and and dogs and kittens is, even though it gets a lot of likes, if that's not the case, solving problems. What's a
So
good example?
think of it like a Facebook ad auction, right? Like, or think about it like a Facebook ad. Like, what are the things that determine Facebook ad prices? Like, one of them is relevancy. What determines click through? How do you get click through up? Relevancy. So again, like solving a problem means you're making it relevant to that particular audience. I think the question is like, how do you put yourself in front of that audience on a regular basis, right? And I think that's a little bit more tricky because you don't want to be talking to no one, right? Like you don't want to. That's just the biggest waste of time, right? You want to go out, you want to have an objective for your writing, right? And you want to have a very particular target audience. And again, find a niche, right? Find a niche, go after that niche, and try to get in front of them. I think those are the most important things to do. So like when you're writing, it's like, okay, think about like any other ad impression, right? Again, you don't want it to sound like an ad, right? It's not an ad. You should be generating actual analysis and insight. That's ultimately what you're demoing. That's why you're relevant, is that your analysis and insight can help this particular person solve a problem that's been vexing them.
Hmm. And
And you
so,
don't want to give away too much. I think that's the other important part. Like just showing that you're smart and you're around the area or the domain where they are usually is enough. They'll follow you away too when they have a problem. Oh, this person is the expert in XYZ.
and how about the aspect of personality? Like, how important do you think it is to show your personality or who you are as a human in
Yes.
this side of business?
Yes.
Well, what do you mean?
Yes.
Yes, like
Yes.
you look up to Eric Seufert. I don't know how much you talk to Eric Seufert. How well I've known
It's Twitter
Mr.
DMs. I'm
Seufert
trying.
since he came fresh off the boat from Estonia and joined Digital Chocolate. Like I've known him for a really, really long time, and so his way of putting it, content is very much focused on the actual insights. He doesn't do much of personal stuff. When he does it, it trends really well. But that's an example. Is that a good example, or
You mean in terms of
like as a
like how you would
benchmark?
write
Sorry.
content to get people,
Yeah, like
reel them
Eric
in,
doesn't
bring
show
all
his
the
personality. He's
milkshakes
super
to the yard?
funny. He's such like a fun guy, but you wouldn't maybe know based on his LinkedIn post.
No, he's selling like a subscription at this point. Like he will be the first to tell you that a lot of his writing doesn't bring in like clients to his consulting business. I mean, it helps first establish him as a persona,
Hmm.
which can help him. But a lot of it is just like, yeah, establishing him as an expert rather than like as a consulting funnel.
And so is that what you're also aiming with, establishing yourself as an expert?
I think I'm trying to fuck around, have a little fun, and like I would say the thing that really bothers me is that there isn't enough people thinking very seriously about games. Like when I go look at the world of tech, you have these writers like Ben Thompson, who is an absolutely brilliant tech writer. Benedict Evans is also a brilliant writer. You have all these people who are saying very serious things about the world of tech, and sometimes they talk about games. And I think we deserve that for ourselves. And like the best we could do is Matthew Ball, and I don't think that worked out the way I would have liked. And
Mm.
I think we should do more to put ourselves on the map, right? Like why can't we be at the same table that like the Airbnb CEO or all these tech luminaries sit at? I think we should we should respect ourselves more, and I think we can do better. And I would ask more of us. So I'm trying to start somewhere.
When you think about your career or your path in consulting entrepreneurship, have you used a coach? Do you do self-analysis, or do you reflect with somebody else?
Interesting. I haven't thought about a coach.
Okay, so let's not use the word coach, mentor.
Oh man, I can't believe I'm about to say this on this podcast, but Arnold Schwarzenegger.
No, but I mean like a real person. I mean like
Arnold Schwarzenegger is my mentor, man.
Here's the interesting thing. You look up to Eric Seufert a lot. Why don't you ping Eric Seufert? No, I'm sure he would.
I have pinged him once in a while. I've pinged him once in a while for advice about certain things, and he's been very kind with his
mentorship.
Time. Yeah, but see, like now that I'm a consultant, if someone wanted me as a mentor, I'd be like, ugh, oof, I'm not ready for that.
Paid mentor, then, which makes you a coach.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, maybe that's not a bad idea. That's not a bad. I think I'd want to think about like what do I think I could get out of that I don't currently have. Like, I mean, am I hiring a consultant for my consultancy, or is there something else I'm looking to get out of that?
I think that could be pretty helpful, because in a way you've set him as a benchmark, which is a great benchmark. Mobile Dev Memo.
I wouldn't call him a benchmark, just inspiration.
Inspiration, but it would be really interesting to kind of get a little bit of insight. It's like, like people like after the Supercell blog posts, they put Supercell as a benchmark, as an inspiration, and then you're like, yes, these are beautifully written PR pieces, but behind it is the truth, and not that the truth is wrong or different, but it's like, how is this constructed? What is this vision based on? And it would be probably pretty interesting to talk to the CEO in privacy to get mentorship. Like, I hear what you're writing. How do you get there? What did you do when you were in my position? Where would you go? I'm thinking about these 3 avenues, and kind of get the opinions from somebody who's ahead in the game, if you will.
It doesn't sound like unsound advice. That sounds good.
Okay. Well, let's focus a little bit on you. So, if you could rerun I'm sure you run a lot of economy simulations, but if you could rerun simulation of your own life, would you make the same decisions or choose different outcome?
Oh no, I think we talked about this earlier. I'm completely complacent with the choices I made. There's no alternative path for me that I sit at night think about. No, I'm good.
And I think that's the attitude as well that you have, is like no regrets. Because like, what's the point of having regrets? I mean, it makes sense to do a debrief or post-mortem, but to regret that you did something is just waste of time.
Yeah.
It's already done.
Yeah, I mean, this sounds bad, but like that is part of what is behind the move for us too, is like, we got to move to the next stage of life, but we also woke up and we felt like we weren't progressing in some ways. And so like, all right, well, let's not just sit here and be cradled, for we don't want to wait. We don't want to waste time. We want to move forward, right? Time on the earth is limited.
True. So you balance a lot of systems for your clients. Their fairness, the profit, the wallet sizes. What's the most unbalanced system in your life that you willingly lived with? Or not your life. Let's put in your career.
You say unbalanced. So what would be something that would, when you're thinking about something that would be unbalanced in your career, what would be an example?
I'll say Joseph Kim is the most unbalanced career that I've ever seen. And I pinged him yesterday on Instagram with just a note of Jesus Christ, Joe, because he was again like pulling all-nighters, just being all broken. Like, that's an example of an unbalanced, willingly unbalanced, and he would admit himself.
I get like that too. I think it's mostly driven by obsession. I think like, with some clients more than others, there's just something that you just get obsessed about their problems and you just walk around everywhere thinking about it. And unfortunately, like it drives the girlfriend nuts, because she can also tell when I'm not there, because I talk to myself quite a bit and my mouth sometimes moves.
Yeah.
And that can
typical
become
for people
unhealthy.
With cats, by the way. Don't worry about it.
Yeah. Jesus, man. We're going to make a lot of enemies this cast. Look, I would say this though. The saddest thing that I say sometimes can happen is that it sucked the joy out of playing games. Like you can't really turn your brain off. Sometimes you enjoy it, but you need to relax a little bit, and you just feel so tense. Like, oh my god, I could be analyzing this game. What could I be learning from this game? How could I be optimizing this game? How could I scrapbook this game? And that can be exhausting. Sometimes you just need to chill.
That's so true. For me, it has sucked out the fun out of mobile games or free to
Mm.
play games, if you will. Yeah, I still would love to play Total War. I can't because I get addicted, and it's just always like waiting for me for a period when I have a little bit less time, or any PC or console game. But
Whenever I
that's
see
true.
Northgard, I'm
Yeah,
like, oh my god, that was Mishka's game.
we pumped that up so hard it got sold to whole company. Like me and Suford were just pumping them up. We
You were
got
like,
them.
CEOs are playing this. Everyone I know
Yeah.
is playing this.
So actually, that was a funny story because we were pumping it up on Twig, and we because we liked it, and we kept pumping it, and Cress was going crazy, like, why are we talking about this mice nuts? And then it got sold, I believe. It's a French company, and I remember
Mm.
getting a message from bankers. They're like, "Fuck, we were listening to you, and you were talking about it, and we didn't move, and now we lost the deal." It's like, from now on, when you guys pump a game, we'll reach out. But yeah, like that's true. Like losing the fun out of playing games. Like I don't have fun playing many of the puzzle games
Mm.
or no puzzle just as an example, but any of the mobile games. Like I still do play, but it's too much of like, oh, I know what you're doing. Oh, I
Yeah.
know how this is balanced. Like I can see behind it, and you're
Mm.
not getting immersed. And I won't play any 4X game. Like get out of here. I know how this is made.
It's for me, it's like I'm fine with now knowing what's behind the puppets. Like I'm
Hmm.
okay with that. I think that's totally chill with me. I think the problem I tend to have is that it feels I see the hamster wheel, and if it's not an interesting hamster wheel, I don't want to get on and run it.
Hmm.
And I'm like, oh man, like another match casual. Like, all right, you got to show me how this hamster wheel is interesting.
Yeah. Another version of
Woo.
Rally Match. Yeah. Thank you.
All right, hold.
Today's podcast is brought to you by AppsFlyer, inviting you to dive into their new first of its kind report, The State of Creative Optimization 2025 edition. It's not about how to make creatives. It's about understanding what makes users actually stop scrolling and what emotional and psychological triggers drive performance. Based on over 1 million creative variations and nearly $2.5 billion in ad spend, the insights in the report will help you develop a winning creative strategy. Check out the link in the podcast description below or go to appsflyer.com and search the state of creative optimization. That's appsflyer.com.
Hold on, can I hit you up? Can I hit you up with a question? Hit you up
Yes.
with a question because you're going on this journey too.
Hmm.
How are you thinking about your daughters in this situation? I'm curious about.
Mm.
So you're moving them from where they are. They're gonna have this experience over in Greece. I would imagine not forever. Who,
No,
who knows what happens? Things happen.
not forever.
What do you expect the impact to be on them?
That's a really good question because like we've moved before with my wife to the U.S. and it was very easy. Pack a
Mm,
couple of bags and just relocated. As
very
soon as you
friendly
get
place for immigrants. People
well,
don't. I would say that's another thing you learn here.
listen, I'm a published author. I get if you ask America.
Went over
So
on a no one.
yeah, exactly. So the the visas drop pretty quick, but once you get the visa, then things are pretty nice, and relocation was easy, and we were young, and it was fun. I can imagine the place where you are, and it's good time.
Mm,
It's a fun season that you will always remember in your life. In this case, it was interesting. So. Um, we moved back to Finland mainly because of family reasons. Like we had our first daughter, and we were in the U.S. for about a year, and it was really a decision whether we stay in the U.S. where we would have moved to L.A. and
yes.
because my sister lives in L.A., has lived for
Mm,
25 years, so
yep.
closer to family, or whether we go back to Europe closer to family, and we ended up going back to Europe, just a better job offer, and yeah, just felt like a good idea, and it was. It
Yeah.
was. This was much easier. Got kids into daycare. The life started working in a much more stable and predictable way. Even though I throw chaos into it by doing startups and starting consulting at some point, but that was a good choice. Now leaving from here is it was in the end quite of a simple choice. So I'd say that this is a great place to live, but it is kind of boring. It turns boring pretty quick. It's like repetitive.
Yeah, yeah.
The reasons for us was definitely climate. So we don't enjoy the 9 month bad weather. It's very
Yeah.
hard with your kids being inside, and Texas, of course, is an important part. Um, Culture is a big one. So in I don't know how it is in Sweden. I would imagine it's pretty much the same. But the culture in these tough weather places is that people are very secluded and often
Mm,
just between themselves. They don't
mm.
go out. There's no cafes. I remember when the head of marketing joined Rovio, he was coming from Spain. Um, Louise, and he pinged me. He's like, they gave him a couple of different areas to choose from where the apartment is, and he's like, what's this place? There's no cafes. He's used to Madrid where like there's like 20 cafes on the block, and I'm like, welcome to Finland. You'll know because nobody sits in cafes. This is not a Spain where people just hang out on the streets. So that's the culture part. It's kind of very isolated, and I would say the final part is with the kids. So our kids, so our eldest went to school and now she's in the third grade. She just started third grade. And the school system has been honestly a disappointment. So they were in a private daycare before that, and now they went to public school here around. And the school days are about 3 hours, 4 hours long. There's all the normal fun of bullying and she really didn't fit to like she's doing better, but that was an important element where she really didn't enjoy going to the school, and we were looking that the school is pretty poor, um, even though it's like good neighborhood and so forth. But the overall scores in Finland in schooling have collapsed. The healthcare is
Same here.
collapsing as
Yeah,
well. It's the welfare state here is in a really really bad position. Sweden is much better.
that's true.
So
Schooling
so
still is going through a rough patch, but
yeah, so it was on the individual level. Like we went to see the schools in Athens, and they were really good. Like
oh, interesting.
private schools were big movers for us. And the quality of education, the price of education is not that high, to be honest. And in Europe, like private healthcare and private schools are very affordable.
Yep.
And so that was a big mover. And she also, like our eldest, she's 8, she's turning 9, she really wanted, and then we thought that that's a good thing. She's an American, her passport's American, so it's like a
Oof.
good
So she's
good
gonna be
thing.
filing taxes for the
Yeah,
rest of her life.
well, but she has the seals to cover her up if everything happens.
Okay.
Seal Team 6 come. Yeah, let's just say she's not going to live in Dubai, which is probably positive
Yeah.
also, or Singapore. But yeah, that was really an impetus there, is just to give them a good life experience,
Interesting.
be in an international setting,
Mm.
and be in better schools, and just feeling that our family would be happier for a stage there. But of course, we're giving a lot away. We're giving away being closer to family, um, and that's really about it, to be honest.
I think that is one of the other things that's tough for expats is when
Yeah.
you have kids here, you don't have your support network.
Hmm. Yeah.
It takes a village, and you don't have a village.
Yeah.
Much more stressful. I would say a lot of what I've seen is expats will ship in the grandparents for
Mm.
a little siesta for us, let's say like a couple months, which I think has been very useful too.
Yeah. Yeah. We always had we always hire a nanny. so
Mm,
so we've rotated through a few, and it's always been a good choice. So yeah, that's really it. But that I'm not saying that by any means that Greece is better than Finland or anything like that. Like these are two very different countries, even though the colors of the flags are same and they're in exactly same time zone. But that's about it. But we are also pretty crazy. Like this is a sort of adventure, and again, this was led by actually my wife. So her employer has a very big office in the city, and we're like, let's go and see what the city is like, what it could be living there, check out some apartments, check out some schools, put in everything into calculus, and see whether this makes sense. And again, in my job, I'm pretty free to be wherever, and financially, it makes a lot of sense because again, we live in socialist states. both Finland and
Do
Sweden.
we?
I don't know.
I don't know. It's
well,
see, the thing is, it's transfer payments, right? Like people understand, like you get a pension, like you're paying your, like a lot of those welfare fees I talked about. It also
mhm.
goes back to yourself.
No, we made the calculus. Like the uh, the 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 net that you end up paying here is about 60% of your income.
Oh, don't be wrong. You're definitely
Yeah,
coming out as a
and when
loss, but
you start looking at like private costs of like
yeah,
private healthcare,
yep.
well, we have to get private healthcare here because the regular health system is just bad at this point. And then the education, again, we would be paying private. It's not
But
that
see, here's
much.
hold on. Let's rewind for a second here because
Hmm.
I hear this from expats all the time, bitching about the current state of the country, right? I, I still think like despite all of the things that we point out, these countries have been successful. Like
Hmm.
Sweden has the I think second most number of unicorns per capita. Israel's the number 30. United States is
Yeah,
number one. Incredible hotbed for entrepreneurship and innovation. Swedish economy in particular, by the way, different
yes,
different than the other ones. I
yeah,
just want to
yeah.
settle
Sweden
like
is on top
strongest, yeah,
by far.
most diverse, interesting, multinational corporations. We got Spotify, we got Klarna, we got H&M, we got King Games, we got Dice. I mean, I could go on.
Everything.
Yeah. So, we think to Finland, right? Finland, from your description has been in a tough spot. What do you think it needs to reclaim? Right? Is about Finland moving forward about reclaiming that something it had in the past that fostered Nokia, that
Hmm.
fostered Supercell? I guess like what went wrong along the way that you think would help them course correct?
Yeah, that's a really good question. And honestly, I'm absolutely not the right person to answer this. I think there's a lot of very smart people that are thinking about it, and I'm only reading their thoughts. So on a high level, what has been happening is we haven't had a financial growth, unlike Sweden,
Mm,
unlike oil-rich Norway, unlike Denmark. By the way, Sweden, Denmark, and Norway all have their own currencies, unlike Finland that uses the currency of Germany. I'm sorry, euro. Which is, uh, so again, I don't know if that's the reason, but it's one of the
mm,
reasons. But the biggest reason is like when you look at the spending of the country and the earning of the country, very simplistic way. Um, since the fall of Nokia in about 2008, and there was a financial crisis 2008, 2009, 2010, Finland hasn't rebounded compared to its neighboring countries. But nevertheless, despite losing the big earner, we have been spending like we have that big earner, and so that debt has consistently increased. So we haven't taken a step back and kind of adjusted to the realities, but instead just borrowed to continue spending like our neighbors. So if
mm.
this would be a four-row house or a street at the end, and it's called Scandinavia, uh, then Norway hit a jackpot in some
Yeah.
kind of a lottery, and they're balling out of control. They're buying Porsches and whatnot, and they're investing into properties in different places. Then you got
Have you seen
this,
how the sovereign wealth fund works, by the way? I
yeah,
went to Norway and it's impressive. Like they
it's
they only live off the interest like an endowment.
yes, yes.
The
They don't
capital from the oil is still there.
exactly.
It's
So
just the interest rate.
they don't spend on it. They just basically, yeah, they live off the interest. So good on them. They're keeping modest, but they're rich as fuck and they own everything. So
So,
so
so the
that's
way they set it is really
yeah.
interesting. They try to make it such that Parliament has to set the budget, and then they cover the shortfall in actual revenues
Hmm.
with the oil fund.
Yeah.
So it'd be the idea that Parliament isn't trying to increase the budget because they know that endowment fund is coming. We know that's not the
Yeah.
case, but it's a cute
Yeah.
attempt.
Well, I don't know too much about Norway. I have read about it. I think they have other issues in terms of productivity because of that.
Mm,
Living off the dividends is not the best way to survive in the long term. At some point, the bill comes if you haven't evolved, and there's no pressure to evolve. But that's Norway. Then you got Denmark, that is quite innovative. That is very closer to Europe. They have awesome companies. They have innovated. Their economy is growing. They're quite conservative as well in many ways. And then you have Sweden, which is the perennial superpower of the Scandinavia, and somehow they
yeah,
always
baby.
succeed. They always succeed. It's the capital of Scandinavia, whatever Copenhagen says. Stockholm is.
That's what the sign says. You
Yes,
drive in.
and the innovation, and I don't know why.
But here's the other thing. Here's the other thing. As we're getting to the juicy parts. There is dirty laundry in Scandinavia. Like when we were talking about like Sweden being king, like the whole idea of this Swedish exceptionalism. That's not just an American concept, by the way. There's this whole idea that the Swedish people are exceptional,
Yes.
and
Yeah.
that floats around. There's a quiet sense of pride. Like if you ask people here about the achievements of this country and like how much it punches above its weight, oh, little old Sweden. Oh, why could you be interested in us? You dig a little bit deeper. It's there, baby. The nationalism, the pride.
That's nothing compared to what's going on in Finland. So in Finland, there's called a Swedish minority. They're called Finnish Swedes. And this is the most privileged class you've ever seen in your life. They have their own party that is part of every single government. Center, left, right. You can't rule without the Swedes. The Swedes own majority of the capital in the country. They force the 97% of the country to learn their language. This is the most imbalanced and most insane privilege. They have their own university. So if you speak Swedish, it is like 12 times easier for you to become a doctor. So they guard their privileges with institutions. It is crazy. It is
hold
so
on
fucking
here.
Crazy.
It's a lifeline to expats because you can get finishes and shit by learning Swedish rather than Finnish.
But here's the craziest part. They speak a dialect of Swedish that the Swedes can't understand. When these guys go to Sweden, they switch to English because it's so hard to understand. So there's this cradle of
people
supremacy.
From look at my Swedish is más o menos, as I like to say, but like it's
anyways,
thicker.
Don't get me. But back to Finland, like this is a tough one to say because I don't want people to get pissed.
Fair enough.
So I don't know. Like I don't think there's inherently anything wrong with the Finnish people or the Finnish system and whatnot. I think we've kind of entered the phase where the government has been overspending, and that has led to a lot of deterioration of the elements that the welfare state has provided. And we have the same type of issues that any other country has, where how would I put it? Like we have the negative effect of democracy. And what I mean by that is the rule of the majority that pushes towards self-interest, and majority is usually
majority rules minority rights.
Yeah, but it's not what the majority is usually people who are not well off. And so you kind of start getting into a place where you promise targeted benefits to voters, like subsidies, like tax breaks, like spending cuts, depending on whether you're right or left. We have a little bit of this sort of demagoguery going on, which is essentially populism. It's the same in any European country. And we have the same, kind of like equality without merits type of approach. So ultimately, I don't know what brings it back. I think the country is not doing the right things towards entrepreneurs. I think it should be more conservative in its spending, especially of the tax benefits or tax incomes. And it gets back to the fact that a country, in my opinion, should focus on taking care of those who are not well off, the poor 10% or 15% who are unable to take care of themselves adequately. Like that's really important. But equally, a country has to focus on that 1% that is kind of the engine, the economic engine of that country that pushes them forward. And I feel like Finland is very focused on the bottom 15 and almost aggressive against the top 1% of economic engine people. That, like, I'll go to details of that is, for example, every year there's a leaderboard being published of how much people earn, and like publicly scolded essentially for making a lot of money. Like this is they're being attacked by
loser board.
Yeah, so essentially like we would have a person who sold his company and made tens of millions. Those are one or two every year, and instead of being celebrated as they paid half of that in taxes, they're being pretty much attacked for being capitalists. That's the sentiment I get. Of course, that could be different.
Do you think Ilkka has he been attacked?
Ilkka hasn't.
Does Supercell have good like Finnish vibes?
So he played it extremely well, and he was one of the first one who's very open about keeping the HQ in Finland and really paying his visible taxes that come from that. Of course, he has family offices, but he's been really good at that. I've seen others follow his example, as they should, and being sort of a proud Finnish, and then media going after them. And because they deem that, I don't know why. Like, you can't deem Supercell as being net beneficiary for humankind. Like, it's not like a good service, if you will. It's mobile games. Like, we're in that business. We're not creating good things for the world. We're not in the medicine business or whatnot. But just to kind of summarize, I just see the overall mentality changing towards that's just not benefiting the future growth.
Yeah, that's fair enough.
I think it's a vibe change. Is that okay to say?
Yeah, you could say it's a vibe change.
No. All right. So let me wrap this up, because
we've done it. We've gotten to an hour.
Yes, exactly. And so you put me on the spot with Finland. I don't want to say, the thing is, like, I don't want to say anything bad. I'm forever grateful for this country. Yep. We came in as immigrants from Soviet Union. I was 5. This country has given everything to me, all the opportunities. And, you know, unlike you, I am a member of Finnish Defense Forces. So when the call comes, I can't wave another passport that I don't have. It's this or bust. So definitely it saddens me in many ways, how the evolution of this country for the past 20 years. And I hope it turns around. But, you know, I'm traveling. That's all I can say. But to close down this talk, because it's more about you, is you've designed game economies, devised studios, and built your life in 2 different countries, soon a 3rd one. And it's been a pleasure having you as a part of the Deconstructor of Fun team, an integral column of game design and game economies. And I enjoy traveling with you whenever I can. You always skip on our trips now because you work too much, but I would enjoy it more if we can hang out in the future, now that we're living again close to each other on the Mediterranean, on the future trips.
Yeah, let's totally do that. Let's do some Instagram stuff. Let's do a joint live, like, in-person podcast for Twig, like, from the Mediterranean,
from the Cyprus,
from Santorini.
Oh, okay, all right. So the pressure's on me. So we're doing an event in Santorini,
business expense,
Greece,
business
or Mykonos.
Mykonos sounds good too.
Yeah,
Santorini is a pass.
Yeah, and thank you everybody for enduring this podcast. We didn't want to. We just decided to do one of the internals now that we're moving from these countries, kind of discuss what's going on. And I wanted people who listen to Twig, who have been hearing you, Phil, for a couple of years, to get to know you a little bit better, and not my politics about Finland or whatnot. So thank you for telling more about yourself.
No, I would say thank you for having me. Thank you for having me on Deconstructor Fun, and I do mean that. It's something, like, I listen to. I remember at Scopely, like, everyone would listen to it, and, like, being on it has definitely been surreal. And like I said, it has been a beacon for people to talk seriously about games, and, like, the deconstruction method is, like, so fruitful, right? That's something everyone should take away from this. Like, there's nothing I look at now that I'm like, damn, I couldn't deconstruct that. Like, I feel like I have the tools to, like, break down a problem, right, and analyze each part, benchmark it. Like, there is a method to this madness that I think you've helped advance, and I think that's made people think more seriously about games, which is a good thing for all of us.
Much appreciated. And I'll see you on the next Twig then.
Sounds good.
And thank you everybody who listened. Give us feedback. Like, just send less of this or a little bit more of this. Do you want us to do internals or not? And we'll maybe listen to you. So thank you everybody. Bye.
You did it. You made it to the end of the episode. As a fan of the show, it would help us out if you'd subscribe and leave us a review on the podcast service of your choice. Those stars and likes, while a small action on your part, mean a lot to us and help to grow the show. More importantly, are you a member of the Deconstructor of Fun Slack group? If you have 5 years or more of games industry experience, go to deconstructorofun.com/Slack and apply to join. Join the games industry best professional community filled with peers always willing to lend a hand, or subscribe to our newsletter to get all the latest insights from the Deconstructor of Fun content creators. Thanks for listening.